The other thing I'll say about it is like the environment. It was probably the best environment out of any tournament stop we've had.
Mm.
It was definitely the closest. It definitely felt the closest to a tour event in golf. With a lot of times you go Des Moines up there. There's a couple that are up there too. Like Des Moines is up there. Country Club. You had some people posting up on hole 16. There's a couple other courses that have people that just like post up on holes. And to me, like that, I think is the difference, like will be the difference in the atmosphere, is where you have a couple thousand people out there, but hundreds of people are just posted up on hole 5. Hundreds of people are posted up on hole 17. Hundreds of people are posted up on hole 10. And so what ends up happening is you have people watching the chase card, lead card, and then people watching all these other holes. You just hear the roars constantly throughout the day, and they're coming from all over the course. And, leading up to hole 8, you could start hearing it from hole 3, essentially.
Wow.
Is when really you could hear it really almost from the basket of hole 1, but from hole 3's basket on, you can start hearing hole 8. And so like, that's kind of cool hearing that as you're approaching it. And even hole 14 was nuts. There was a lot. They had bleachers, two sets of bleachers on hole 14 that were pretty much packed all week. So that it was really the first time you really felt like there was like a full crowd almost out there. And it changes. It makes it definitely different.
That's pretty sick. Now because like the 8 holes, they had some scrutiny.
I saw that from some people.
Also from Nate Sexton on coverage. As a player, because like the biggest thing Sexton brought up, and I think this is the most valid point, was when lead card got to hole 8, they did like their intros. It's raining at that time, and it held up the lead card. So Corey Ellis is just standing on the tee pad with his disc in the pouring rain while they announce the lead card names and stuff like that. And Nate was like, I'm all for like the rowdiness and stuff like that, but like when you're disrupting the flow, and like Corey at this point was having a bad round, and he was like, when you're disrupting the flow and now you're making someone just who wants to just like start getting his round going, get through this thing, has to just stand there in the rain on hole 8 because the crowd wants to announce his name. He's like, I think that's kind of gone too far, is more or less what Nate Sexton was saying. As a player though, did you feel that at all? Like, was that something that was still happening on your card, or was that something like the theatrics weren't until the camera got there, or like,
no, they did that.
What was your experience with it?
So essentially what I think was going on was I think they did this on hole 14 as well, because I heard it on hole 14. I think what they were doing was they were announcing, and maybe when the cameras got there for lead card, it was maybe built up a little bit more. Because I think I even saw them like on the green.
Yes.
Like people were coming on the green to do it.
Yes.
With, like over the border, which.
That's what I said. Keep it behind the border.
Yeah. I don't think we should be allowing anyone to come on the green, but they were doing it on hole 14 as well. And I think essentially what they were doing is, we don't have, when you go to a Disc Golf Pro Tour, you don't have a, what do they call those? Pamphlet? No. I mean, it is a pamphlet, but there's a word for them, of where like it basically, if you go to a PGA Tour event, you can just grab one of these things and it'll literally have all the tee times on there. So when you get to a hole and you see a group come in, you can match up them and be like, oh, okay, the next group coming in is going to be this. The next group's going to come in is this. And I think essentially that's all they were doing, right? Is they were just announcing who was about to be throwing. Now, when they did it for my group all 4 days on hole, it might have gotten a little bit more juiced the final day, but the previous days, it was pretty much while we were walking, because it's a little bit of a walk from hole 7 to 8. While we were walking from hole 7 to 8 is when they did it. I think hole 8, I think you might be right. I think I might have been the first one to throw. And I think I did have to wait a little bit. because I think they were finishing when I was on the tee pad, where I want to say the previous days they were already done before we even got to the tee pad. Like we were still walking from hole 7 to 8 and they had already announced who was about to throw. Hole 14, I think I might have had to wait. We had to wait maybe one of the days too. I know they were doing like some like clap thing too. And I was curious actually because I saw people on social media like hitting me up saying, hey, what did you think about hole 8 and the crowd and stuff? And I was trying to think like what, like were people upset with like the cheering? Were people upset with them clapping? Like I was trying to think what it was, because to me, like the noise, like I want that. I want roars happening all over the place. But yeah, I agree with Nate there. I guess when I was watching coverage, I really wasn't, at that point, I really wasn't paying maybe the greatest attention to what was going on. So that's why I was like vaguely like, was there someone like on the green or whatnot? So yeah, I mean, I don't think we should be having spectators, no matter who they are, like on the green, basically stopping the flow. And like you said too, I think there's a time and place for like making that announcement. I don't think you should be making that announcement like you're on hole 1 where everyone has to wait for it. But the energy on hole 8, like I don't want that to change. I think that was incredible. I could see too. Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying like it's a tough one because like they've gotten, I'll say better every year. Like they've gotten louder, rowdier. They've figured out different things every year. And it's become more and more of a thing. This was the first year, to me at least, where it started to feel more, at least from how the cameras captured it, felt more like a production of like, look at us, the spectators were the 8 holes versus being there to cheer on the card coming in, if that made sense. So like there was like they literally did a flag show for when the guy landed safe, and I'm like that type of stuff I felt like was just one step too far. The announcing, the flag show, stuff like that. Like I'm all for being as loud and as rowdy as possible behind in the stands. Like I think that's incredible, and like that's the stigma that got the 8 holes where they're at, is like that's kind of like the loudest hole in golf. That's the loudest hole in disc golf in many ways. Other areas have copy and pasted it, right? But that's the one that started it. And I think that's what I liked about it on coverage was I love, even on this coverage, I loved when people were putting, you could hear it. Even on coverage, people were on 5, 6, 7, you could hear it. And then you get to hole 8 and you know, like it's going to be a pretty electric atmosphere there. But I feel like it, from the coverage, it just seemed like it went one step too far. So I was curious on the ground and as a player, if that was at all what you had going from it.